To kick things off this afternoon, we have an exciting presentation on attack surface management from attackers and defenders' view, unified with Qualys Cybersecurity Asset Management, CSAM. Walking us through this revolutionary solution is Kunal Modasiya, VP Management with Qualys, and Beatrice Sirchis, VP Application Security Manager, IDBNY. Welcome, Kunal and Beatrice.
Hello everyone. Can everybody hear me? Okay, absolutely. Good. All right, so I hope all of you had a good lunch. All recharged now and looking forward to the second part of the conference. My name is Kunal Modasiya and I'm a VP of Product Management at Qualys for the two major product line, Attack Surface Management and Application Security. This is my 2.0 at Qualys, meaning I'm Qualys Boomerang. And this is my 5th year at Qualys, and I'm still here, right? This is my 5th QSC in the US. All right, so today, as you saw, our leadership team, Sumed and Shailesh, introduce our new vision, our company's new vision of Enterprise TruRisk Platform, where we are helping organization in measuring, communicating, and eliminating the cyber risk. In essence, de-risking your business, right? And improving your business agility, as cybersecurity will never be the blocker with the Qualys, right? So now the first step in measuring your cyber risk begins with having an effective attack surface management program, right? And that means knowing all of your assets, on-prem, cloud, internal, external, IoT, OT, all of your assets that you need to know in order to have an effective attack surface management program, right? But today, the cybersecurity team, that is all of us guys, right? All of us. And today, we have to rely on the IT-centric asset inventory that IT team has been building for us, right? And my manager, Shailesh, was showing a nice demo of an Excel spreadsheet, right? The challenge is that the IT team themselves have with regard to building the inventory with the spreadsheet and the laborious and the manual task, right? In fact, in his demo now, I also learned how to use the pivot table and other things. So it's very interesting to see his demo. Now, there are many organizations who have invested $1 million plus on buying the CMDB, right? Now, the CMDB automatically does not populate all of the assets in their environment. And this is where the organization generally have to invest in doing the professional services engagement to feed the data into the platform, right? CMDB platform. Now, and also there are some part of the environment, like a PCI zone or the internet-facing assets where the IT team traditionally do not have a visibility, right? Now, what does that mean? It creates the blind spot. Now, the cybersecurity team that is responsible to do the inventory risk assessment, such as finding out all of your unauthorized software, for example, the Chrome browser running on your database server, right? Finding out the unauthorized port that are open on the internet, maybe unauthorized services that are running in your organization, right? For example, doing the tech debt, finding out the end of life, end of service, and the vulnerabilities associated with it, right? So these are all the basic hygiene. Even before you kick off your vulnerability management program, the cybersecurity team need to do the inventory risk assessment, right? The basic hygiene. But with the inaccurate and outdated inventory, the challenge for the cybersecurity team is even bigger. Now, if that was not enough, on the other hand, the attack surface is constantly evolving, right? With the digital transformation journey that organizations are embracing with the cloud, multi-cloud, OT, IoT environment, digital certificate, a SaaS application in their environment. What does that mean? It is expanding your attack surface. More and more assets, more and more digital assets are coming online, right? Now, that is the second challenge, right? Our first challenge was the not having the accurate inventory. The second, the attack surface is challenging you as it is constantly evolving, constantly changing, right? Now, if you look at the market data, though those assets come on the internet, that the security team may not be aware, but then the attackers are aware because they are on the internet, right? And as per our study and also the market data from some of the research firm, organizations generally have a 30 to 35% of the assets that are unknown to them, right? Even when we spoke to the customers, and as we see that only 9 to 10% organizations believe that they are actively monitoring their 100% of the attack surface, whereas the 69% of the organizations have witnessed the or experienced the attack that is coming from these unknown assets, right? So not having the accurate inventory, and then attack surface is constantly expanding, right? This creates the multifold challenges for organizations like us, right? Now, with that said, let me introduce Qualys' approach in managing this dynamic attack surface, right? When 2 years back, when we launched the product called Cybersecurity Asset Management, our vision was very, very simple. When it comes to monitoring your attack surface, it's not about internal and the external or the cloud and on-prem in a separate siloed tool. It has to be everything in a one unified console so you can see your global inventory landscape, right? And the second, when we launched this, as Sumed mentioned, as Shailesh mentioned, this is a purpose-built solution for the cybersecurity team. It is not replacing your existing IT-centric inventory that IT team is building for managing the procurement and the life cycle, warranty, and other licensing use cases that generally the IT team do with inventory, right? This is the purpose-built solution for the vulnerability management program, the PC program, or the SOC program to get all of the assets in a one place, right? Now, how Qualys is building the attack surface, right? How are we finding all of your assets in a one place? So we have a very use case-based, very flexible, pragmatic approach where if you have already deployed our agent and sensor, now the same agent and sensor are going to start collecting your inventory data, right? So all of your endpoints, workstations, and everything. Now, if you have a IoT and the OT assets in your environment, right, where perhaps deploying the agent is challenging, then you could deploy our passive sensor functionality. Now it is going to sense the traffic and find out those raw devices which are part of your environment, but you are not able to deploy the agents there, right? Third, we have added the external attack surface monitoring management capability as a part of our cybersecurity asset management. Now with that, we have a research team in a Pune, 20-member team that is building the catalog. They are looking into the internet. They are finding all of your subsidiaries, domain, subdomain, merger and acquisition, and they build the curated threat intel for you before we begin the discovery of your internet-facing assets, right? Now, this does not require, let me make it very clear. In order for you to run the external attack surface, you do not need any agent, any scanner, nothing. All you have to put is your top-level domain name, right? And we have generated a more than a 250 plus external attack surface risk report for you guys. So please go to the Q&A bar during the lunch break time and collect your free EASM report. Generally, many organization charges for that. It's free for you. It's ready by crawling on the internet. While building the report, we did not launch any scan in your environment, okay? So there was no firewall lights may have gone red in your environment. This is completely crawling the internet and finding what attacker would see it, right? And the last but not least, right? In your, like Sumit said, right? We would like you guys to have all of the Qualys products, but the reality is that it's a multi-vendor environment. You have different vendors, right? And some part of your environment may not be covered with the Qualys agent and the scanner and sensor. So we have a third-party integrations like a ServiceNow, CMDB, BMC Helix, and the VMware, where you can bring in the non-Qualys environment assets into the Qualys, right? So now this gives you the holistic view of your entire attack surface, right? Now let's do the little bit deep dive into the external attack surface management. Like I said, all you need is your top-level organization's domain. That is it. Why? Because we have a threat research, the catalog team in Pune. They curate all of your informations by looking into your subsidiary, your SEC filing, your merger and acquisition, all of that history, and they build a nice curated and accurate catalog before we do the discovery. And the whole idea is to give you attacker's view, outside in perspective, whatever is exposed on the internet, right? Finding out those unknowns for you. Now, once we do that, many of the large organizations today wanted to monitor their subsidiary risk separately, right? Even many of the organizations, right? Even my buddy Vertiv, right, Mike. So they have done many acquisitions over the last 5 years, right? So they may want to monitor each of those acquisitions separately. So now we have a new feature added capability where you can monitor the risk. For example, your merger and acquisition team is planning to acquire a company. So as a part of that assessment, the IT team, security team is responsible to see the cyber risk that you are going to inherit, right? So you could now create a separate profile without mixing into your own devices, right? And you can monitor that risk as well. Obviously, as we are finding these assets on the internet, we are finding a lot of contextual information, the inventory assessment, for example, finding the vulnerability, open port, the end of life, end of service that is running on those assets. So now when you see the internet facing assets, you see the contextual information, so that tells you the ownership, whether you own this asset or not, right? Because there are a lot of false positive. And then if there are vulnerabilities, if there are ports open on the internet facing assets, then it is dangerous, right? That's a red carpet for the attackers, right? Now, once we do that, we understand that since this surface is a very dynamic and evolving, you will not be able to babysit and monitor every 24/7. So you could write some rules, and you can say that if the asset shows up in this particular domain or the IP range or whatever CDN or whatever filter you want to configure, it's a fully configurable discovery profile that you can use it, right? And last but not least, I think the discovery is a one part, and some of the customers that we spoke to, they said, oh yeah, we have a showdown, we have done a manual pen testing in our environment. And even with all of that, finally, you have to assess the risk and bring those internet-facing assets into your vulnerability management program, your patch management program, your ITSM. You need to sync those with your CMDB. Many of the organizations that we spoke to, they don't have a CMDB with internet-facing assets visibility, right? Now, we have been doing this across the more than a 2,000 plus customer. We have found about 7 million plus assets on the internet, and 500,000 of those assets were vulnerable. They had vulnerabilities on it, right? And 1.5 million, about 21% of the assets had a risky ports open like RDP, SSH, SFTP, and go collect your free report. You may have a RDP port open on the internet, who knows, right? So please collect your free report, which is there in the Q&A bar. Top 10 customer, we discover around 330,000 plus assets. We found about more than 10 subsidiaries on an average, that the customer were not scanning those subsidiary assets, right? Look at the number of domains we discover. And finally, based on our analytics on the back end, we see that organization have a 30 to 36% of the assets that they were not scanning in the Qualys VM program, right? So that's a huge number. Now, let's switch to the topic to the internal attack surface monitoring, right? While everybody is focusing on the external attacker's view, but then finally we are the defender and we have to defend and we have to monitor our internal attack surface as well and fix those things, right? So now first thing first, and we are going to have some surprise here at the end of my session, which is we introduced the brand new feature called Cloud Agent Passive Sensor. Now within our agent, we have this functionality where the agent itself that you have already deployed is going to find out the internal raw assets without you requiring to deploy the new passive sensor or a new appliance and talking to your IT team and doing all of that. One of the cloud agent that you have already deployed is now going to listen in the broadcast network and start finding out all of the internal raw assets, right? Now, the security asset management, right? This solution help organizations with building their asset inventory, right? The first step in the attack surface and measuring your risk, right? Which is finding out your cloud, on-prem, IoT, OT assets. Second, we have a third-party integration. So the part of your environment that is not covered with our agent and scanner, you could still get those with our built-in third-party connectors, right? And then we have a bidirectional sync with your ServiceNow CMDB. Many organizations that are implementing the new CMDB project, they use our Qualys CSAM to dump all of the assets from the Qualys to their CMDB, so the CMDB project goes 0 to 60 miles within a few weeks, as opposed to now figuring out how do you put the data into your CMDB. Also, when we take the data back from a CMDB, we also get the business context, like who owns these assets, what is the location, department, what is running on it. All of that business context also we get into our system, right? And the key thing that Shailesh and Sumed and everybody since morning we spoke about is, this is the first step. Even before you do your before you do the vulnerability management, inventory risk assessment is extremely important, right? Where you want to find out all of your unauthorized software, ports, find out if the critical machine has a CrowdStrike agent or an antivirus agent or a Splunk collector is running. If not, then it is a higher risk. And that is what you should be patching. That is what the vulnerabilities that you should be looking into, right? Or having a end of life, end of service software running on your business critical, right? So now all of this, now we have introduced this true risk integration within our product, where when you are seeing a true risk, it's not only about the vulnerability, but now you are seeing the posture that is coming from the EOL, EOS, and unauthorized software and everything, right? So bringing it together, the CSAM, the internal and external attack surface together, where now you see the holistic view of your organizations, everything in a one place, outside in view and the inside out view that you are supposed to fix it, right? And the last but not least, and again I am repeating this, right? So a part of your environment, you could deploy the third-party connector like Active Directory, ServiceNow, BMC Helix is a recent one that we have added now, and we have working on a VMware and the CrowdStrike and the Zscaler as well. So you could bring in those assets into the Qualys system as well, right? So this was all about measuring the risk, right? Now the second part is, how do I communicate the cyber risk? And Sumed's slide, there was a very nice line which says like speaking different language, but that language was not a Java or a Python or a C, C++, right? It's about providing a actionable report, right? The CISO dashboard, or enabling your CMDB team with the EOL, EOS, so they can plan those upgrades with their CIOs, right? Or having a, if you have centralized on a Splunk, we have a built-in connector or an app that sits on a Splunk marketplace. So you can take all of our assets with all the correlated information to the Splunk. So now you can see everything in a Splunk, right? And by the way, compliance, right? How can we forget Shailesh's favorite topic, compliance, right? So we have all the built-in report for a compliance, right? FedRAMP compliance or many compliance that he says, even I don't know. But yeah, we got you guys, right? So all of those compliance report, and for a different persona, we have tailored it, right? Executive reports for the persona who are doing the work on a day-to-day basis, right? Also, now again, I wanted to repeat this. We have built, Siddharth and Bob and team has built 250 plus reports for the attendees who are here. So I request you to go to the Q&A bar and collect your free report. No credit card payment is necessary. We know no credit card payment, okay? So you don't need anything. You are covered. Okay, so please go to the Q&A bar and collect the report, and Siddharth, myself, and we are all here. So come talk to us, talk to our subject matter expert as well. Now next, we are introducing the new feature called the Tech Debt Report, another the free report that we are giving it. And this is something will go live in a Q1. Now with that, we are able to find all of your critical assets, where the vulnerabilities are, where the end of life, end of service is, breakup by operating system, breakup by your hardware. Now obviously the cybersecurity team may not be responsible for upgrading this, but that is IT team. So you can now communicate with them well in advance, like what is coming in a 3 month, 6 month, 9 month, 12 month, right? So all of that built-in report, executive style reporting is we are working on. Finally, it is about solving the challenges, solving the problem for you. The customers today buying the multiple siloed tool, one for external, one for internal, one for a cloud, one for OT, IoT, and then stitching the data together, right? But with us, everything is included in part of our platform with all of our agent sensor ready to go, all of the correlated information, right? And the last part is about eliminating the cyber risk, right? And with the CSAM, we have got a built-in where we can discover your internal and external unknown assets, and you can bring them into your VM and PC program. As I mentioned, we have end of life, end of service, all of those built-in dashboard available in the product that you can use and communicate to your IT counterpart so that they can plan those upgrades. Also, if there are unauthorized software like the Chrome browser running on your database, you could simply create a workflow to uninstall them as they shows up, right? And you can accelerate your incident response and the triage process as well. So finally, based on our customer study, what we have seen, generally without Qualys, it takes about 30 days to find out all of the assets. But with Qualys, they are able to reduce up to the 2 days. Most of the organizations, when we ask them how much coverage you have in your VM program, and it's like a 50 to 70%, with us, it's going to 100%, right? Take that, it goes from a reactive to very proactive, and you can plan up to 12 months. And finally, mean time to remediate, because we have all of your assets with the correlated information, where it takes significant time for organizations to find out who owns the assets and all of that. Now it reduces from 30 days to 1 or 2 days, right? So now, you have been, and then we have a free trial, 30 days free trial. So please go to the website, enable the trial, and you can use the product, and one of our experts will reach out to you, right? So now, so far, you heard Qualys product manager talking about his in product and praising everything, right? But how about one of you come here and talk about how you guys are using? Don't worry, I'm not going to call out your name, but we already have a, Vinod is ready to go. I know Vinod is super excited. Even Mike, anytime I call him and he's ready, all I have to tell him is 1 minute or 5 minutes or 50 minutes, right? So, okay. So we have a customer speaker, Beatrice. So please welcome Beatrice on the stage. She works as a VP of application security at a company called Israel Discount Bank of New York. She has been a network engineer and the security engineer in the past, and she has been a security architect and the project manager. So with that said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to come back for the demo, but please welcome Beatrice on the stage.
Thank you.
Okay, Beatrice?
Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Kunal, for inviting me. Good afternoon. I am really happy to be here and to share with you the accomplishments and the benefits the bank is having by using CSAM. I have to say I am working with Qualys for the last 5 years, and I think it's an amazing platform. So, a few words about IDB Bank. It provides commercial and personal financial services, headquarters in New York City, and branches New York, New Jersey, Florida, and LA. Being a small bank, actually have to operate the very same business, cybersecurity and IT platforms as a big bank, but with significant less employees. So efficiency is what we have to perform every day. So how we do that, how we enable the growing business? First of all, by managing an accurate asset inventory. We do that by managing the on-prem and also the assets into the cloud. Besides that, we integrate the business applications and platforms with the IT and the cybersecurity. Being a highly regulated bank, as any other bank. And also, we are dealing with a growing number of new hardware, new software that we need to keep and to manage, not only from a vulnerability perspective, but also from a policy compliance perspective. And finally, we need to define and manage the key risk indicators. And that is not only a senior management requirement, it's also a regulatory requirement. So we defined ourselves a few key requirements for the platform that we selected. First of all, dynamic visibility. Why dynamic? Well, because the business is dynamic, the infrastructure is dynamic, and why visibility? Because we need to know any new asset and any new IP that is connected or software that is active into the network. We need to be on top of the external posture on internet-facing assets. We have to know what is installed, how is the security posture, and to have it automatically scanned for vulnerability and for policy compliance. On top of that, we need to be able to identify the gaps immediately, not yesterday and not tomorrow, immediately. That means we have to know every end of support, end of life software or operating system or anything else that would be endangering the bank. And also, we want to be efficient and to use the CMDB in order to manage the ticketing for an effective remediation. And finally, as we all know, we need to report. So we need to be able to have a tool that we can report to so many stakeholders, not only the senior management, also the IT colleagues, also the internal audit, and the risk management. So, what are we doing with CSAM? First of all, we are using it for having a complete asset inventory. Actually, this is the source of truth for the asset inventory on-prem and on the cloud. How are we doing this? Well, we deployed scanners throughout the various zones that we are that we have defined into the internal network. And one of the questions that we are asked by the regulators every year is, how do we know every asset that is connected to the network, and how do we know that we scan everything? Well, we know that by leveraging the network passive scanners. Those are, in fact, sniffers that are identifying automatically any new IP. And those are fed into VMDR to be scanned and into the policy compliance to be scanned against the compliance. We are also using the traffic analyzer in order to identify those assets that are more challenging to be identified. And of course, as we are managing a database, then this database needs to be clean. We defined a few automatic purge rules. For example, we defined an automatic purge for the dead cloud agents. Also, we defined an automatic purge for IPs that are not in the network anymore. So this is how we save a lot of effort and we keep the database clean. Another use of CSAM is managing the end of life, end of support. One of the most challenging findings are related to the application. I'm sure you are dealing with the same. Java, .NET, those are highly impacting the applications. And being a bank that is using business applications that might have been developed quite a few years ago, they support previous versions of Java and .NET, so we need to be aware of those end of life, end of support to coordinate with the vendors and to see what we can upgrade and what we need to decom. We also identify software that is endangering or is increasing the cyber risk, such as sniffers on the network or file sharing software. We also identify automatically which assets are vulnerable for known vulnerabilities. We all remember Log4j that when it was published, we tried to see which assets are impacted. Well, using CSAM, we know automatically which assets are impacted. And another use is to automatically know which mandatory agents are missing where. For example, Qualys Cloud Agent is mandatory on all the servers. We will know if there's a new server that it doesn't have it deployed. Or CrowdStrike, which is the EDR that we are using. Why is important? Well, obvious. Without CrowdStrike, it's not defended. Another use that we are doing is tagging. Tagging is one of the critical features that we are using because we are leveraging the tagging in order to bring the business context, meaning that we are tagging every business system, all the assets related to every business system, every IT system, or every cybersecurity system. So when an upgrade is going to happen, we know exactly which assets will be impacted. We also defined, of course, the environments, and we defined functional tags. For example, assets not scanned for more than 30 days. Why 30 days? Because 30 days is the maximum period that we are scanning everything into the network. Or assets that are impacted by authentication issues. Why? Because the authentication is mandatory to correctly identify vulnerabilities or to run policy compliance scans. We spoke about key risk indicators. So we are using CSAM in order to define and manage and maintain the key risk indicators. And this dashboard, in fact, it's shared dashboard to so many stakeholders. It's used by cybersecurity, of course, in order to identify the asset, what is the key risk indicator status, but it's also used by reporting to the senior management. This is a code, a color code defined here. Management will see what is green, it's okay, within the threshold, and what is orange is beyond the threshold. Another stakeholder is our colleagues in IT. They are using this platform in order to plan ahead which end-of-life or end-of-support software or operating system they need to plan to upgrade or maybe to decommission. Internal audit are using the very same platform, and risk management are also looking at this dashboard. So this is our shared dashboard for all these stakeholders. We are also using the true risk in order to prioritize the remediation. And you might ask, why true risk? Well, because a critical asset is impacted differently by the same vulnerability than an asset that is not critical, is not even related maybe to the critical business. So we are leveraging the true risk in order to know where to focus our remediation effort. We spoke about integration and ticketing. We are using CSAM, CMDB sync, in order to perform the integration. And I'm sure you know that CMDB is quite a complex project. It's much easier using CSAM CMDB sync. It's a daily export of assets, all assets and vulnerabilities from Qualys to CMDB. And then we defined automatic assignment rules to the vulnerabilities based on Qualys tags. So Qualys tags know which are the business systems, which are the critical business systems, which are the crown jewels, and based on this, we define the automatic assignment rules. More than that, we are following up on the SLAs based on Qualys tag. Similarly, we know what are the business critical projects, and we defined for those the SLA. So the tags are actually the basis for this CMDB integration. So what are the outcomes that IDB Bank has a beneficial from working with CMDB, with CSAM? First of all, medium time to discover. We don't even can say it's 200% faster. It's just immediate because it's out of the box by defining the rules. We know what are the resources and what needs to be done. More than that, we instantly comply to SLA requirements or to reporting on end of life, end of support, or even to report about software that is raising the cybersecurity risk. We are able to plan ahead, not only a few months, a year before. What are the operating systems that will be end of support next year? What are the software packages that will be end of support or end of life? So we are able to use this information to plan ahead. And finally, we are able to close tickets faster. I'm sure that if you know that 95% of the vulnerabilities are automatically assigned, that is a huge, huge achievement. That means that our colleagues do not have to try to see what they need to do. They know exactly what they need to do, and they focus by doing this. So we did so much, and next steps, we are going to learn and leverage the external attacker point of view. We really look forward to implement this. We are going to leverage the cloud passive sensor in order to address the IoTs, and we are going to integrate the Active Directory. So now it's time to say thank you. First of all, I want to thank Kunal for inviting me, but this is a team effort, so I want to thank the Qualys team, which means Pablo and Chris and Tammy and Anna. So thank you. And I want to thank Anthony, which is our TAM, and is doing an outstanding job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Beatrice, for your time. And happy that you shared the story of Qualys platform journey with all of our audience. So now that, guys, first you saw me, product manager, bragging about the product, but now you heard customer talking about how they are using the Qualys platform and cybersecurity asset management. But seeing is believing, right? So I'm going to give you a very short 2-3 minute demo, and then we have a suspense lined up. So let's get excited for that. All right, so let's get started with the demo. First thing is about the attacker's view. All right, so the first step in your journey is building an inventory, right? Finding out all of your assets. And finding your internet-facing assets is very easy, which is a one click with your top-level domain. And these are the various ways you could build your inventory. So now look at this inventory profile. All you needed was your top-level domain, or you could put your organization name. And like I said, we have a threat intel research team in Pune. They build all of your information in pre-built called catalog with all of the different sources, so you can validate all of your domain and all of the subdomain that are part of your organization, subsidiary, and everything that you are able to monitor. And then with a one click, you submit it. Now take a coffee break, not now, but when you press this configuration submit, take a coffee break or a beer break, and then when you come back, we would have crawl your internet and find out all of your assets on the internet, right? And this is a built-in dashboard ready to go, right? All of your internet-facing assets, domain, subdomain, your unmanaged assets, the end-of-life, end-of-service on the internet-facing assets, with their risk score, the assets where they are deploying on ISPs, assets with the vulnerabilities, right? Now let's look at one of the vulnerable subdomain, right? It's not just about the discovery, right? That you do it with a manual pen testing also. But getting the contextual information with that is extremely important, right? So now you drill down into it, and then you see your complete discovery path, right? How we found this asset for you on the internet, right? So you see all of those discovery steps, how we are finding these assets, as well as you see your ASN, ISP, and the contextual information such as the who is data, open port, application stack, end of life, end of service. This is what helps you to know the true risk and whether you own this asset or not, right? Sometimes we may end up finding some false positive, right? So in that case, you could verify all of this. Now, once the asset is discovered, with a one click now, you are able to bring it into the Qualys VM program, right? So discovery, contextual risk assessment, and then with a one click now, you launch the Qualys VM scan. So now you are scanning this, so you know your risk on daily basis, right? So it's that simple. One click, you launch the workflow, right? Now, many organizations have a web servers or the applications exposed on the internet, right? For example, your developer may have created a new domain and 6 months later, they may have taken out the domain, but still the web port is still exposed on the internet, right? Which is again a blind spot and which is a red carpet for the organization, right? So now you see with a one click, you are able to find those web server and then you are able to activate web app scanning, whether it is on the port or the domain or IP, all of that, right? So you can straight away launch the web app scanning on that, right? Now, this is all shipping. It's already available, and I'm saying this third time. We have generated your free EASM report, no credit card required. Please collect from the Q&A bar, right? Now, these are some of the upcoming capability. And this is another way of visualizing your organization and your subsidiary risk, right? And here in this example, Qualys have acquired these companies in the past, right? So you have a graphical view of all of the assets and all of the risk that this organization or subsidiary is bringing, right? And the reason is some of our customer told us that the subsidiary, though you have acquired, but security responsibility still lies with that team. So now here you can view the risk based on the subsidiary. When you are part of the global attack surface management program and you are discovering everything, but you wanted to generate the report, slice and dice the data based on the M&A or based on the subsidiary, right? So this is one of the interesting way that we are working on where you can continue to see the risk that is coming from a particular subsidiary and the assets, right? Now, this is the merger and acquisition use case that I spoke about. This is already in a beta stage and it's going live in the next 1 month or so. So now you can create a new profile. And by the way, we are now introducing the new feature at the time of discovery. We are going to do the lightweight vulnerability scanning ourselves. So now when I do the discovery, I'm going to find a lot more contextual information because we are going to launch the vulnerability scanning with itself, right? So that feature is going live soon in this quarter. And now you see your multiple profile, right? One for your subsidiary, one for your potential acquisitions that you are planning to do. So you are doing the risk assessment for that, right? So these are all currently in beta stage, right? So now that was all about EASM. Now let's talk about cybersecurity asset management, your inside-out defender's view, right? Quickly, and then we'll go through this suspense, right? We'll reveal the suspense. So your cybersecurity asset management, all of your assets, cloud, and the on-prem assets, and the IoT, OT, or high risk by business division, right? So we'll talk about having the business context in your prioritization or measuring the risk, right? So we have all of this that comes from either a CMDB, or you could write the tags, or you could ingest those contexts via API as well, right? So you see all of your high-risk business applications, and you see by environment, whether they are part of the production, pre-production, right? So now you know where the real risk is. So based on that, you can prioritize and remediate, right? So now you see one of the assets based on the department, and you see the true risk score. Now this is something new thing that we added, which I said, when we are computing the true risk score, it's not just about the vulnerability. Now the true risk is calculated based on the unsanctioned port that are running, if there are end of support software, if there are any missing software on that machine, right? You see here one example. And for that particular, you see our Qualys detection score and why we are rating this as a higher score because of the CVs and the other informations we have, right? Now you see some of the contextual details that is useful for the SOC team while they are investigating the incidents, right? You see custom attribute. This is yet another new feature that is already shipping, where our agent is collecting the telemetry, but if there are some attribute, like for example, PCI scope or zero trust policies, there are some attributes that are not there on your firmware that our agent is not collecting, right? Now you have an option to enter those custom attribute key value pair, right? And then you can query them, filter them, group those assets, and then as we continue our journey of a true risk, we will use this attribute to compute towards the true risk as well, right? So very interesting feature, many customer requested, and finally we have, so up to 20 attributes you can add it, right? You see all of your installed software and the favorite one, the log4j, right? And all of the details about the log4j that you can see it here, right? Okay. Then you can see the business application, right? So this something comes from the ServiceNow CMDB integration, BMC Helix CMDB integration, and you could ingest this information via API as well. So now you see that this asset is part of your reporting service. Who owns this? Where is it location? And what are the other assets part of this particular business application, right? So now this further alleviates the game to the risk reporting at the business level, right? So that's where currently our CSAM gives the information in the system, right? Now, last but not least, a day in the life of a security analyst, right? All of this inventory and attack surface is good, but finally, you know, the day in a life is not that as good, right? So let's assume there is a Tomcat 7 version with a new zero-day breakout, right? And the top question that your bosses are asking you is that, okay, can we find out impact of this latest zero-day breakout which is affecting Tomcat 7.0 and above, right? So now quickly you come here and then you start seeing, just put the query here, and then you see all of the assets, and then you can group them by your hardware, AWS, Azure, GCP, and all of that, right? If you had a different siloed system, in order for you to find out the impact of the new zero-day breakout, you may have to look into the 5 different consoles, one for a cloud, one for a on-prem, one for a OT, one for internet-facing assets, right? But here, you fire a one query and you see all of your assets in a one place, right? And then you can customize this report and you can share it with everyone. You see here the Azure and AWS breakup. And you see your internet-facing assets where the Apache Tomcat has been deployed, and see the risk score has been flagged. And finally, like I said, we have a third-party connectors, and I'm going to stop my demo here, but the third-party connector, we have an Active Directory, BMC Helix, ServiceNow CMDB, and then we have a Qualys webhook. So with that, you can bring in any assets that are not covered by the Qualys agent and the sensor, and you could use our built-in connector, and we are continuing to expand our journey on building in a new third-party connector, okay? So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation and the demo, and please collect your EASM report.